Welcome back to the Play by Play podcast YouTube channel, where we are returning with the corner, the segment of the podcast where we talk about all things boxing and MMA within the combat sports world. And today we're going to be doing a prediction of the upcoming welterweight bout between Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios, happening on Saturday, February 21st in Las Vegas. Man, this fight has so many implications to it. There are going to be so many consequences, in my opinion, when it comes down to this fight, because Ryan Garcia, for the bulk of his career, has been one of the biggest stars in boxing, or at least one of the most up-and-coming stars in boxing. He obviously has a massive social media following. He has done well in terms of content creation and putting his name out there. For at least the bulk of the beginning of his career, he was with Canelo's team and hanging out around Canelo and training with Canelo and whatnot. I mean, he was looked at as one of the next big things, especially at these smaller to middle style weight classes at 135, 140, and now 147. But slowly but surely, his name has obviously started to tarnish a little bit, whether it was unfortunate losses against Gervonta Tank Davis in his previous fight against Rolly Romero. You had the huge press tour madness, chaos that he had in his press tour against Devin Haney leading up to that fight, missing weight, winning that fight, and for a little while, at least for the first couple of days, becoming a big-time star. But then, unfortunately, getting caught using steroids, using estrogen, and ending up having to take a one-year layoff. So there are a lot of questions when it comes to Ryan Garcia. There have been questions in terms of, his discipline leading up to certain fights, to his mental capabilities leading up to certain fights. He's taken time off because of mental health reasons. He hasn't been very disciplined at times, especially in preparation for that Devin Haney fight. He has had fights like the Rolly Romero fight where he just looks completely uninterested and turned off. And yet again, because of his name, because of his star power, he has been gifted a third golden opportunity against Mario Barrios for the WBC title, who, let's be honest about this just for a second, is not a prestigious champion in the world of boxing. Is arguably one of, if not the worst champion in the sport of boxing currently. Is a fighter, we have to give him that, and is a guy that loves to throw blows at times and puts on entertaining contests. But in his previous fight, went to a draw and, in my opinion, lost to a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao. Prior to that, went to a draw with Abel Ramos, who is kind of your journeyman contender type boxing. Won a belt off of Yordenis Ugas, who since then has had a big time downslope within his career. Originally lost in his first welterweight bout to Keith Thurman, who, as we know, is, aiming for championship fights now at 154, but I think a lot of people can agree is past his prime. So Barrios has had a very up and down career. And that's what makes this fight so interesting, is because the consequences for these two, this is their last chance for both of them. For Barrios, it is his last chance to defeat a major name and to gain himself major credibility as a champion within the boxing world, because if he does lose this fight to Ryan Garcia, as big of a star as Garcia really is, he is going to have a long way back to potentially a title shot. And he is still a little bit younger. He's within his physical prime, still at 30 years old. But we haven't seen him put on masterful, dominating performances time and time again where he could really get back to a title shot point. And then for Ryan Garcia, if he loses this fight, his third straight world title gift, purely based off of his name, and he loses to Mario Barrios, one of the worst champions in boxing, what else do you do with Ryan Garcia? I mean, what seriously would be left for you to do with Ryan Garcia if he were to lose to Mario Barrios? Because as interesting, if he does lose to Barrios, as interesting as maybe something like a Devin Haney rematch would be, I think Haney is a lot better than Barrios, and maybe there is conversation for that rematch not needing to take place. Who else? Maybe a Teofimo Lopez, but even then, Teofimo's really only major loss comes against the dominant defeat to Shakur Stevenson just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, Teo is still on a much higher platform when it comes to boxing ability and credibility. A rematch with Rolly Romero, maybe like a legacy big time fight with Manny Pacquiao. Like, the point being, like, Ryan is running out of chances, of opportunity, and of time, to be honest. I think fans are beginning to get a little bit fatigued and want to see a clean, dominant win from him. I mean, we realistically haven't really seen that since, Luke Campbell back in 2021, Francisco Fonseca, when he caught him with that sharp left hook in the first round all the way back in 2020. Yes, he had a solid performance against Oscar Duarte on his comeback fight off of Gervonta Tank Davis. But seriously speaking, it's been years since we've seen a dominant version, a clean version of Ryan Garcia actually picking up a big-time win to not only boost his star power, but also boost his credibility within the boxing world. So those are the implications within this fight. But how does this fight go? What are these two styles? What advantages and disadvantages do they have? How does this fight really go on? Now, when looking at Barrios, this should actually be a pretty easy matchup for Ryan Garcia. Not even the fact that Barrios isn't as talented as some of the other champions at 147, but also he has a lot of big-time defensive vulnerabilities. He struggled a lot, like I said, against Manny Pacquiao last July, purely based off of Pacquiao's ability to continuously put pressure on Barrios, come from different angles, and use his speed to keep Barrios' hands at bay. Those were the big-time weaknesses that I saw from Barrios in that Pacquiao fight. And when you look at Ryan Garcia, and especially in the fight against Devin Haney, which was the last, really great performance that he had, despite it being tainted by the steroids, he started off quick in that first round, knocked Devin Haney down within that first round. As we know, Ryan Garcia has a lot of speed at his disposal, especially with that left hook, which could be used as a counter off of Barrios' shots. Ryan is capable of putting a load of pressure on his opponent and giving an output to where he can be effective in getting you to the ropes. We saw that in the Gervonta Davis fight early on. But again, what Ryan are we going to get? Is Ryan going to be able to keep that type of pace over the course of 12 rounds? Because whatever you want to say about Barrios and his ability, he has shown the ability time and time again to go the full 12 rounds, to not fatigue and get worse over the course of 12 rounds. In fact, I argued that he actually gets better over the course of 12 rounds. He definitely did in that Pacquiao fight. The second half of the fight was definitely more in his corner. And yes, he was facing a 46-year-old who was definitely fading in the second half of that fight. But Barrios has that type of ability to go the stretch of fights. Ryan, that second round has been a little bit difficult for him in his career. Got knocked down in the second round against Rolly. Got knocked down in the second round against Tank. In the second round against Devin Haney, allowed Haney to get back up and get back into the fight and recreate some momentum for him after knocking him down in that first round. And as we saw in the Rolly Romero fight, wasn't really interested, especially after that knockdown, to really go for it. I mean, I looked at the punch stats. Rolly out-jabbed him in every single round in that fight. Rolly out-threw him in 10 out of the 12, 11 out of the 12 rounds in that fight. Yes, Ryan landed a much higher percentage, but Rolly purely won that fight just based off of activity and the knockdown in the second round. That was really it. Outside of it, that was completely winnable for Ryan. And if Ryan does decide to sit back and try to box more and is a little bit more tentative at going, Barrios is a guy that can push his front foot forward, use his jab, which was a weapon that I don't think that he used enough against Manny Pacquiao in his previous fight. I think that when you rewatch that fight against Pacquiao, he was hitting Manny with the jab almost at will. Just kind of abandoned it in the early to middle part of that fight, but then found it back again in the second half. Barrios does have the ability to back you up. Does he have, destructive type power? Maybe not. Maybe not something that Ryan realistically has to be as concerned about as opposed to somebody like a Tank or Rolly, who we do know is jacked up even at those middle weight classes. But he can put the pressure on and put combinations together for Barrios. So Ryan is going to lead this dance. There's no question about that at all. The question is in what way is he going to lead it? And that is really why this video, this prediction is so difficult to make, because you have to see how Ryan realistically comes in. He just posted a video a couple of days ago where he weighed in for the week, where he was showing his weigh-in, and he was still, 2 to 3 pounds overweight, 149, 150 pounds, which to me possibly shows that he's not as disciplined. We've seen him, doing big-time streams with other content creators, messing around, not being at the gym. There has been questions in this camp about his discipline. And of course, there's also been questions about Barrios' camp with him bringing in his new head coach and Joe Goosen, who I think is going to bring out a better boxing side from Barrios and will allow him to activate using that jab just alone to beat Ryan. Obviously knows a lot about Ryan. That's going to be an advantage as well. So for Ryan, if he comes into this fight and he wants to land on the front foot, he wants to be active, he will be able to beat Barrios with just his speed and probably his left hook alone. But if he sits back, if he allows Barrios and Goosen to dissect him in that ring and really watch what he does and be able to continuously make a game plan as the fight goes on, especially into the later rounds, that's when Barrios gets better, and that's where he has the advantage and he will win it. So ultimately, where do you go? Which side do you really pick? I love Ryan. I really want him to win this fight because I think that it could set up for so many big-time fights. I mean, the Haney rematch, Teofimo Lopez coming now to 147, potentially Shakur Stevenson coming to 147, Conor Benn, these two have been yapping, maybe the rematch with Rolly Romero. But to me, I have more confidence in the disciplined guy than the guy who is just purely more talented. And when you combine that with the fact that Goosen's in the camp, he knows Ryan and some of the tendencies that Ryan's going to be able to do, Barrios has enough behind his jab and his boxing ability that he could outbox Ryan. Rolly outbox Ryan. So if Rolly can outbox you, Barrios can definitely outbox you. I want Ryan to win. And I might pay the price for this, for doubting Ryan. And this might be the last time that I ever doubt Ryan again. But I'm going to go with Barrios by a 12-round decision. Maybe it's split. Maybe it's unanimous. We'll have to see. But to me, Ryan, with the consequences in place, with the lack of discipline that you've seen over the past couple of months, with how he looked in the Rolly match last year, I think we're once again just going to see another tentative, slow starter, Ryan Garcia, who's going to be conserving his energy over 12 rounds. Barrios, there's a lot of questions with him. He needs this fight a lot. He's going to have a lot of motivation. And I think ultimately he will do just what Rolly did, which is just purely outwork Ryan in a 12-round fight. So that to me is personally my prediction for this fight. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What do you think is going to happen in this fight? What happens to the winner, the loser? Who needs this fight more? What version of Ryan do you think we're going to see? Do you think that the Goosen-Barrios matchup will work this time around? Let me know all of those answers down below within the comment section, as well as subscribing to the channel, leaving a like, and sharing this video with your friends. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those ads are going to be down below in the description. We're on all of those social medias. You will get to see my latest reactions to breaking news within the NBA, the NFL, and now combat sports. And you will also never forget, for whenever the podcast decides to upload an episode. And without further ado, guys, that's all that I have for you guys today. I will see you guys on the next one. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week, and peace.